Good evening from the Geo Institute, and we are happy to present to you the second masterclass session in our sports management program. Absolutely thrilled to have a very, very special guest with us, also a member of our program advisory council, a council that regularly guides us on our curriculum and to build a strong foundation and connection with the industry. We have Dr. Bernie Mullen, the founder and chairman of the Aspire Difference Foundation, and also formerly the founder and chairman of the Aspire Sports Marketing Group, one of the most prolific sports marketing group in the world. Dr. Mullen is a pioneer in the field of sports management and marketing, someone who has adorned the leadership positions in some of the most leading and profitable. I talk about profit because we're talking about the business of sports, and some of the most profitable leagues in the world, for example, the MLB, the NFL, the NBA, to name some of them. And also very, very, very interestingly, Dr. Mullen is one of the first PhD from the business domain who entered sports management and has been a founding professor of the University of Massachusetts Sports Management Program, which is widely considered one of the best in the world. We are completely honored to have him at your institute as one of our advisors. And today's masterclass will touch upon the topic of the global best practices in intelligent marketing and how it is instrumental in sports business growth. When we talk about sports business growth, we have to talk about revenue generation. We have to talk about ticket sales. We have to talk about fan engagement as well as the retention of fan in terms of the relationship building. I'll hand over the floor very soon to Dr. Mullen. Before that, I just wanted to touch upon a few words on Geo Institute. The Institute was launched last year with two programs, one in artificial intelligence and the other one in digital marketing. This year, we are launching two more programs, one in sports management, the other is in journalism. All these programs are of a year-long duration. These are postgraduate programs. We have a strong focus on research as well as industry connect. The admissions are ongoing. We invite you to visit our website, learn about the programs, and we would be happy anytime through calls or emails to address your queries. So with that note, I would really like to invite Dr. Mullen to take over the floor, and also the panelists and attendees. Thank you very much for your time today.
No, thank you. I am honored to be on this podcast and talk to people all over the world, and love what you're doing with the Geo Institute. So if you could call up the slide presentation, and then we'll go through that. But welcome everybody. Quickly on my background, I am my strange accent is a combination of growing up in Liverpool, England. Obviously, we might arrogantly say it's the capital of the sport of football, world football, even though I'm an Everton fan, not a Liverpool fan. And obviously watched a lot of cricket growing up. Wasn't as good a player at cricket as I was at football, but where I played semi-pro soccer, and it was that, being a summer camp counselor for summer camps in Maine, in the USA, that brought me to America 50 years ago this year, and I've never left. So my graduate school education and all of my career has been spent here. I think when we put the presentation together, our staff wanted to make a statement and say intelligent. So I apologize for misspelling the second time around on that. That is the San Francisco Giants, one of our clients. If you've never gone to a baseball game, or if you've never gone to San Francisco, you got to go, because it's an incredible experience, particularly when they hit the ball out of the park and it goes into the water behind where you see those boats, and people have to come out and grab it. So if we go to the next slide, please. Just quickly, what do we do? I am in the transition, kind of pseudo-retiring, but not completely, into a foundation. The foundation is focused on raising money to support single-parent families that have preschool children, to try and get over the income gap and many of the other sociological problems that we have in America, giving back So supporting young moms and dads who are doing a loan with their young kids to get really started in the education gap. And we believe in something we call EPH. E is poor education leads to poverty. The repeated cycle of poverty leads to lack of hope. And therefore, through better education for preschool kids, we hope to generate hope for those families that they can enjoy the American dream and that all the beautiful things that this world has to offer. I am still the founder and chairman of the Aspire Sport Marketing Group. We've generated over $1 billion in ticket revenue, related donation revenues. Our work is around the world in 21 different sports and entertainment genres, mainly in the USA, mainly college athletics in the USA. Before that, I was president and CEO of the NBA's Atlanta Hawks. At that time, the NHL had a team in Atlanta called the Thrashers. I ran that as well as world-class State Farm Arena. That was Philips Electronics, Philips Arena, when I was there. Before that, Dr. Bill Sutton and I collaborated. We put together the famous Teambo Group, Team Marketing and Business Operations Group for the NBA, which was an in-house think tank. Think of it as a McKinsey-style operation on best practices globally. There, within the first year of implementing 8 major strategies, most of which I'm going to share with you today. Those strategies generated $250 million of incremental revenue for NBA teams. And a large part of that was database building, intelligent market research. It was dedicated staff selling premium seating sales of clubs and suites, dedicated staff doing season ticket renewals, now what we would call memberships, dedicated group sales on a year-round basis, and then the inside sales, what previously been called telemarketing. So it was all those practices. Prior to that, I had been senior VP for the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Colorado Rockies, where we broke the world's attendance record of 4.483 million fans, over 50,000 fans a game in Major League Baseball. And you need to understand around the world that, we think it's a tough time selling cricket, and we've been privileged to earn awards in Europe for our work with Lancashire County Cricket Club and getting them obviously the World Championships and test matches. But we think it's tough when we have a 5-day test match in baseball. Yes, it's different teams, but we would have up to 14-day homestands, would be a different opponent and a match every single night for 14 days straight. Certainly the biggest challenge I've ever had. We've sold, as I said before, soccer, even in non-soccer markets, hockey in supposedly non-hockey markets. We've done a lot of work with rugby in Australia. And basically, we find that these principles I'm going to share with you work no matter where you go. And then, as said earlier, I helped move the sport management program from sports studies into sport management. And shortly after I left, Dr. Sutton and his colleagues took it into the business school at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, and it has now been voted, if not number one, among the top 2 or 3 sport management programs in the world. So that's my background. That explains my strange accent as I've moved around and worked in different places here in the United States. Next slide, please. So what is intelligent marketing? I mean, the obvious thing, I've been saying this now for close to 10 years, and the level of intelligence that we market with has become more and more sophisticated, particularly because of technology, and particularly, what's the future with artificial intelligence, and all of the cutting edge technological applications that we have for ticket marketing, for ticket sales, for ticket service. So it's not smart versus dumb, but it is highly targeted marketing with more intelligence on your fans and the prospects rather than just shooting in the dark. We'll go into more detail on that in a minute, but that really is the essence. The essence is I get very, very tired on a daily basis of this sucker, my phone, and you see my little Everton logo there, being called and being called by people, or emails from, we're an intelligent marketing company and we want to improve the Aspire's intelligent marketing. It's like, well, we're an intelligent marketing company and you didn't do your intelligence before you sent me a useless spam email that really tells me you're not that intelligent. Or, the world has definitely grown from the days when Ticketmaster would send me an email and pushing Justin Bieber or 50 Cent. I have no problem with Justin Bieber or 50 Cent. It's not my genre of music. Look at me. I'm 74 years old this year. Do I look like I'm going to go to a Justin Bieber concert? And okay, so maybe I bought concert tickets like that before, but you got to figure with intelligence that it was used by my grandson or my granddaughter in their early 20s, not by me. So how good is your system of capturing intelligence on who the purchaser was, what the chain was in which that rights to that ticket was passed through various people to the end user? That is what we're talking about. Next slide, please. So how do you intelligently market? Really, what we developed at the MBA in Teambo and what we execute on a daily basis. So we average about 55, 60 current clients at any point in time. In the 15-year history of the Aspire Group, we've served well over 300 clients, and it's a variety of different things. So let me say to you that it is in lots of cases it's market research. So we have the minor soccer league in the United States called the USL, sits under MLS. We have 5 or 6 properties. Some we've actually launched their whole marketing for them as a brand new franchise. We're doing that right now for a property on Long Island, New York, that will apply for membership in the league starting in a month. So we do things like market feasibility. We do price sensitivity work. We build ticket marketing, sales, and service plans, the essence of which you see in this model. There are 8 parts to that, what we call TIMS, T small I, M, S, S, ticket, marketing, sales, and service. The most important thing is that the plan is integrated, that all departments are working from the same game plan and trying to achieve the same goals. When we come into current organizations that are in distress, so we do a lot of turnarounds, we do a lot of startups. What do we find? We find that the different departments are not working together. For those of you in North America familiar with college athletics, for example, we have universities that will not share their alumni database with the athletic department, when the athletic department acts as the marketing arm for so many universities, and they won't share that data because they're trying to get fundraising money from that group and they don't want to share it. Same thing as a business school or an engineering school might not share its data with those folks because they're worried about getting their own donation money. So at a university in America, you've got the student body, you've got parents, you've got alumni, you've got people buying tickets and giving donations. You've got the vendor list of all the people that are providing the coffee or the soft drinks or the bedding to that university. All of those databases, ideally you want to have, and you want to have them fully integrated to the benefit of the organization. But that's some of the early work that we end up doing is in those areas. So let's get into the model. The first thing is market research. If you're going to market intelligently, you need to know who the fan is. And I've already given you some of the horror stories of people trying to tell us we can do a better job of smart marketing, you, a smart marketing company. Stupid. People trying to sell us products that we never use. I mean, they don't do the research to find out that we're a tenant in our headquarter office in Atlanta, Georgia, USA. We're a tenant. We don't own the building. So I don't need landscaping services. I don't need new windows and things like that. It's just, and the point is, okay, how harmful is that? No, not that harmful in that respect, but it's harmful in that it diminishes, in my mind, your relevance to our company because you clearly have not done your homework. So in market research, it really starts with doing your homework on market research, fan research, drilling down to the individuals. One of the things that really is changing, and very soon, if we're not careful, there's going to become even stricter data privacy rules than we're already operating under. So our company, we do not spam. We do not do robocalls. And people are really getting upset, and the efficacy of robocalls and spam emails, those texts, really, it has to stop because it's going to hurt the industry. So where we start then is with market research. We then go to the strategy, which are those earth tone colors in the middle. This model is set up for an existing sports organization because it says retain, grow, acquire. And I'll explain that in a minute. For a brand new startup, that model flips where job one becomes acquire, job two becomes grow, and job three becomes retain. Okay. The strategy parts are in the light blue around the circle. Number one, capture data, particularly capturing intelligence. Number two, what are your communication strategies? And number three, how do you then follow up and close and convert those sales for maximum conversion and maximum revenue production? The most important thing that I want to say to you here is we are not going to communicate as a company, we the Aspire Group, and the best practices that we've built in the MBA and that we've shared. We have built the equivalent of Teambo, Team Marketing Business Operation, for 11 leagues around the world. So we built that where the league offered the same kind of McKinsey-style consulting service and support for all the clubs, all the teams in that league. We've done it in Canada with hockey. We've done it in Mexico with in Tijuana Cholos. We've done it with every team in the National Rugby League in Australia. We've done it with rugby league and rugby union and soccer all across Europe. What's rule number one? Don't spam. Don't send something to someone you don't know who the heck they are, and you don't know why you're sending it. And we'll get into that in more detail later. And then the final part of the intelligent marketing model is performance analytics. Analyze every campaign, every initiative individually, and analyze it against the goals you set for it. And those goals should be at least at two levels. Return on objective. So what were you trying to achieve in terms of elevating brand? What were you trying to achieve in launching new product initiatives or packages? What were you trying to achieve in terms of return on investment, ticket sales coming back for each initiative that you did, and then the overall effectiveness of the campaigns? And then we do a lot of post-match, post-game satisfaction surveys of fans. We do what we call the fan journey. Every element of them leaving their home or leaving their place of business or study to go to the venue, go to the stadium, go to the arena, go to the field to watch that match, and then their experience during the match, on and off the field, and then their experience when they head back home post-event. All of those things are really important for you to get that intelligence. Next slide, please. So Tim's planning, as we call, is essential. You are not going to have success if you haven't drilled down deeply in every one of these elements. And, I will share with you as we go through examples of sports properties where we have done this and totally turned around the property. This is what we did. All of these elements were what we did at the NBA to get that $250 million of incremental revenue per year across all 30 teams. And when you think about that, it's pretty effective when 6 teams are already sold out and pretty well maxed out on revenue. So, but the average across the league was still divided by 30. Tremendous improvement, which meant an increase of average attendance of 2,000 to 3,000 people per game. Next slide, please. So after the market research, it really starts with building the customer prospect database. And I'm happy to talk in more detail on this later. Number one, we work with a lot of small properties that really don't have a CRM solution. They're using the ticketing database as their customer relationship management system. It's not ideal, but our goal is always to go in there, build that database, and then as the revenues grow, to then reinvest back in them. So the data capture plan has to be, and let's talk about a brand new franchise. So the brand new team in the minor leagues in the middle of Long Island, or minor league hockey team, the Denver Grizzlies, that I took over after leaving the Colorado Rockies baseball team back in 1993. And how do we build a minor league team in Denver that averaged 13,000 fans a game and won the championship and did phenomenally well, so well that the National Hockey League moved the Colorado Avalanche into Denver and put us out of business. So you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan for every single element of data that you want to capture and you need to capture. And I gave the example before of a university, that you've got the student database, the parent database, the alumni database, you have the ticket buying database, you have the donor database, you have the vendors, people actually doing business and spending money with the university. All of those areas need to come into a database, okay? And then you have to look at appropriate appending data. Generally speaking, we as the Aspire Group don't buy lists. We don't acquire lists. We have not found them to be particularly effective. We go get lists ourselves. There's a few things, for example, that I would cite, and again, I can expand on this in questions, but there are a few data lists that do work well. I'll give you an example. Arizona State University in Tempe, which is Phoenix, Arizona. They were building a brand new club for football, for ASU college football, meaning American football. And they had about 350 seat capacity. We sold it all out in a 3-month campaign. And these were pretty pricey seats, certainly pricier than, because ASU didn't really have a club at that time. And this included all you could eat, all you can drink in a climate controlled club. The first game I went to there was a night game, Saturday night game against University of Wisconsin, and it was 103 degrees at night. So being inside and air conditioned and to watch the game was pretty nice, and the food was good quality. But how do we sell it out? We got two lists. We were given the alumni list by ASU alumni department, and we went and bought a list of business decision makers. So we got presidents, owners, CEOs, senior VPs of businesses in the state of Arizona. We cross-tabbed the two lists. Boom. This was a list of people that were ASU alums that also were decision makers in businesses. And we put together a customized, very simple email with some electronic collateral and digital, game footage and experience footage. And the messaging was basically your two loves come together to combine for your benefit. Your love of Arizona State athletics and your love of your business. Boom. Very simple. The responses was fantastic. And I'll show you in a second what we did with it. So looking at adding appropriate appended data, whether it's the data that really, whether it's simple LinkedIn data, it's more sophisticated data that is on the finances of individuals, on their preferences. Target segmenting is really key, and we target segment only those with high probability of interest in that product. So the only time that we are really shooting in the dark is we may send an email to group leaders. So a community group, a neighborhood group, a corporate group. It could be a youth group. It could be obviously the coaches or the leaders and the league administrators of youth sports. We'll send them a tease piece. Other than that, and then even that, before we've done that, we've got all the background we can find on this Bill Sutton guy who's running an adult men's softball league team. We've done everything we can to get the intelligence on him before we even send it. So it's building the plan to capture every single person. It's obviously technology, a mobile technology to capture the phones of every single person that comes into our venue. It's capturing who bought the ticket, who it was passed to, and then who actually used it. It's capturing the intelligence on everybody buying food and beverage concessions and capturing the intelligence on every single person that is buying merchandise. It's also capturing intelligence on everybody that drives near the facility. It's all of those things. But the richest, deepest data we get is from personal conversations. And I'm going to get to that in a second. So 2 parts to building the customer and prospect database. It's the plan to capture the data. What are the sources? It's the reservoir and all the technology and sophistication you have where you keep that data. It's then analyzing which data is really critical. So we are in partnership with a company called Fan 360. They are based in Kansas City. They are owned by Sporting Kansas City, the MLS team, and their parent company is Cerner, spelled C-E-R-N-E-R. Cerner is the biggest medical database company in the United States, handling very, very sensitive, obviously, health data that is heavily regulated, but then using that. So they are really good at scoring and prospecting and developing propensity to purchase. And so all of our models work from propensity to purchase, but it is all this funnel that we create, and they are only people that have a propensity to purchase sports and entertainment products. And ideally, if it's soccer, hockey, it's hockey, basketball, American football, whatever it may be, we are channeling them into those pipelines for highly targeted marketing based upon that intelligence. And a lot of it is appended data, that some of which we buy, but a lot of which is out there for us to capture. Next slide, please. Okay. So the core of intelligent, proactive campaigns, obviously, whether it's email, text, whether it's a social media tactic, or it's an online marketing tactic with pop-up ads or whatever it may be, again, you are not getting a message from the Aspire group unless you have some close proximity. You actually went to the university, you've already purchased for that concert or that event or that particular sport in the past. So let's go back to Long Island and soccer. Obviously, we have already affiliated with all of the soccer clubs in Central Long Island. And we've developed a program with them where we are going to give them certain benefits, free camps, clinics, our professional players coming out and meeting with them, doing autograph signing sessions, special group rates, other kind of benefits to that soccer club in return for them giving us access to their database. So it started with the initial work we've done for the USL Long Island team is a lot of work we've done in market validation. How far will people travel? How much are they likely to, how many games they likely to attend? And how much will they spend? So all of our yield management work, our pricing, and the packages we're putting together for that club are all based on hard data, research, and intelligence of, yes, this is what the average family is willing to spend. And if you've got lower income families, which in that market probably just because the nature of America means you've got a Latino population that probably has lower income, but a very high probability of wanting to attend a soccer match. So we have all that data in our database. We can then set up what are the keys to campaign effectiveness. Number one, it's a unique message that is aimed at the right target group, target market segment, with the right offer that makes sense, with the right wording and messaging that resonates with that community, on the right platform, whether it's social media channel or whatever, or whether it's text or SMS, or whether it's an email, at the right time. And obviously there's software providers that can tell us what's the best time to email Bernie Mullen when he's most likely to open up an email. All of those ticketing technologies are wrapped behind this. But the main message I'm saying to you is one size does not fit all. This takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of staffing, but there is way too much going on in this world, all over the world, and particularly with smaller organizations, particularly with organizations that don't have a lot of money, that just shovel it out. And I'll give you an example. 6 years ago, we did a pitch to the Royal and Ancient. The Royal and Ancient is the governing body of golf. They also operate the Open. For God's sake, don't call it the British Open. They get very, very testy, rightly so. They were the first. There is a US Open, but the British Open is not the British Open. It is the Open. And our partners who brought us in, the marketing and design firm that redesigned all of the Open branding, brought us in, and we said to them, how big is your database? And they gave us a number. How big should your database be? They gave us a different number. And we said, okay, what are you doing? What is your marketing communication strategies to that database right now? And they shared it with them, shared it with us, excuse me. And the sharing with us was, we send emails to everybody in the entire database. We're like, you got to be kidding me. So as we built the ticket marketing, sales, and service plan for the Open, and the results were very simple and very fantastic. We focused on all the premium seating and hospitality. So all those tents, you know, with the high-end food and the visibility, they'd be right at the green of certain key holes. All of those hospitality areas, we were able to sell them out. And interesting enough, in Britain, they sell out during the week because business people will go and attend with other business people during the week. But for the most part, British people on weekends want to have that time with their family, and they don't necessarily look at a high-end hospitality opportunity with their family. Very different than America. If you watch golf in America, you know, the Waste Management Open brings in 250,000 people on the Saturday of the event alone. It's just staggering what happens there with the hospitality. And then they've actually built stadium effect on the 16th hole, the par 3 hole, just this ridiculously incredible, noisy experience in golf, which you don't normally get. but very, very, very high food and beverage elements. It's like watching an IPL cricket match. So again, I stress you have to have strategists, you have to have intelligence. You can't just throw out something that says, hey, we're here, here's our product. So what will happen with USL Long Island when we have a team name is that there will be highly targeted packages, probably not based on stereotypes, but based on the reality that the Latino community is over-indexed on interest on soccer, world football, and over-indexes on larger families, and over-indexes on lower than average income. When you take that intelligence across all three, you'll create something like a modern family plan, which starts with 2 tickets, 2 meals, and 2 drinks, but you can add a 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 10th, very flexible package that really meets the needs of that community, as opposed to a business list of businesses within 25, 30-minute traveling time radius of where the stadium is going to be that are targeted, and they are targeted with the messaging of come and build an even better relationship with your customers, learn more and get to know closer and gain intelligence on your prospects, or recognize and reward all of your top performing people by giving them a nice family experience for them to come and sit in maybe a club or a suite area for the USL Long Island team. So I've spent a lot of time on this slide because it is the key to return and campaign effectiveness. Okay, next slide. Obviously, we're going to do performance analytics. As I said earlier, we want the return on investment, the return on objectives, every campaign to be measured. And we're also going to focus in very, very strongly on open rate, click-through rate, and share and post rate. For the most part, our open rate on most of the campaigns, we've just recently done campaigns. So in America, there is a concept called HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities. They, and we own it, Aspire owns 50% of the event. It's called the Battle of the Bands. A very big thing in American HBCUs are the bands. The bands perform with dance team members, and it's a very huge source of pride. So we put on a one-day event that is put on at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, an 80,000 seat stadium in Atlanta, where the Atlanta Falcons play and where the Atlanta United MLS team play. So an NFL and MLS team play there. And we put the event on it. We recently had it the beginning of February, and it's a phenomenal event, very well attended and very well received. But that obviously is a niche event. It overwhelmingly resonates with alumni. In other words, graduates of the universities, of the historically Black college and universities. And it overwhelmingly resonates with people whose income is over 100,000. So they use it as a place for those alumni groups to come together, particularly of the 8 bands that are playing in the event, if they're alumni of those universities. That event, the open rate was over 50% for all of our marketing. Now, the click-through rate may still only be 4.5%, 5%, 6%, but the conversion rate on that was 1, 1.5%, 2%, depending on the particular groups, because we customized it to each alumni group, to each HBCU group. And if you were an alumni of a historically Black college and university whose band was not playing in the event, then it was customized that you got the message talking about that event as an experience for HBCU alumni, not necessarily just for, the North Carolina A&T or Alabama State alumni. Next slide, please. Oops, okay. Sorry, did we skip one? Yeah, sorry, we'd skip one. Yeah. So the heart of Aspire's ability and really our intellectual property that really makes all the difference in why, these 50 plus organizations at any time hire us, and the over 300 companies have hired us in our lifetime, is this. We call it FRMC. In England, at some places, depending on the sports property, the club, if it's Charlton Athletic, if it's Everton, if it's Leeds, if it's Coventry City, if it's Leicester City, the teams that we've worked for there, or if it's the cricket, like I said before, with Lancashire County Cricket Club. Sometimes it's called an SRMC, a supporter relationship management center, as opposed to a fan relationship management center. And it is mainly outbound proactive call designed to create fans for life, which we do, because again, all of our performance metrics show exactly how long fans come. So what do we do? This is just speaking about outbound. Obviously, these centers invariably are the toll-free 800 number inbound call line, so they're answering that. But what's the core of their strategy? First off, we pass on the contact info on all opens, click-throughs, and shared posts to the sales consultant. They do an immediate follow-up, so we have a philosophy behind all of this that we call 24, 48, 48. So basically within a week, 5 days, within 24 hours of somebody having come to our events. And obviously we've got the ticket purchaser information, but we may not have the user information. So we do everything we can to get the user that ticket information. With digital tickets these days, that's easy. But there are still plenty of our properties that aren't using fully digital tickets. But we want to get the information of every single person that uses, and that's where the concessions information, the merchandise information, the capture of the mobile phone numbers in venue, capture mobile phone numbers around the venue, all of that data comes in. We go after the share posts first, we go after the click-through second, we go after the pure opens third. Obviously, we will target all those who don't buy or who abandon their shopping cart. But those who have bought, we even go after them as well by making a satisfaction checkup sell call. And this is an upsell call. Clearly, that's the goal there is, hey, saw you bought online. I want to make sure that you're happy, blah, 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 blah. You're going to have a great experience. And this is before the event. So the goal there is to sell more tickets to that event. The goal there also, very often we do satisfaction calls post-event. How was it? How did it go? Blah, 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 blah. So we have intensive training for sales consultants on relationship building and not just selling. The reason why our small company, started by myself, that's bootstrapped, goes up in a marketplace in America, that we go up against multi-billion-dollar competitors and we win. And the reason why we win is because our focus is a relationship call. One of our competitors, whose name I won't mention, trains their sales staff that on the first 2 minutes of that call, if they get the impression that person is not going to buy, dump the call as quick as they can and go to the next one. It's churn and burn, high volume. It's transactional, not relationship. Transactional calls don't work. We all get way too many of them. As you know, I suppose people call me an expert in this. I can't tell you what it's like for the poor sucker on the phone that calls me, that tries to telemarket me. Because immediately, or tries to telemarket my wife, it's even worse because she just won't take the call. She sees spam come up on her phone and goes, whoop. Okay. I figure that if I let it just go whoop to the call, that they're going to call me and try again. And I'm also intrigued to find out if they're any good. No, I mean, literally 99 out of 100 of them aren't any good. They're on a script, or it starts with a robocall and a pause. So I know it's a robocall coming, and it's ridiculous. My wife's last name is Wilkinson. My name is Mullen. All of the utilities, registrations and everything else in the house are in her name. So I get Mr. Wilkinson. I'm not Mr. Wilkinson. Or can I speak to the man of the house? I am the man of the house. Okay. First off, you haven't done your homework. Okay. Got it. And secondly, you start off on the wrong foot. How are you today, sir? If any of our staff asks anybody, how are they today, sir or ma'am, I'll fire them. Because that's not the right kind of call and conversation and messaging to build a relationship. It just doesn't work. Instead, we're happy to sit on the phone and talk to you, even if you have no interest in buying tickets, because we want to understand the relationship you have with soccer, with cricket, with the sport, with hockey, with football, with the university, with the professional team. How aware are you of the team or the club, and how interested are you? We want information. So we look at our calls as additional market research, invaluable market research, and invaluable intelligence that we're getting on the customer. Who do you typically come with? Oh, that's great. How old are your kids? Boys, girls? What do they love to do? What do they like most about coming to our games? All of that information is valuable. Now, it's expensive time, but our ROI and our return on our objectives is better than the people who we compete with, who have trained their people to get off the call quickly if that person doesn't seem like ready to buy. And when you look at outsourced teleservice operations, of which India is massively strong, this, along with not having some people with good enough English language skills, is the problem that I see in the telemarketing, teleservice business globally, but particularly from India right now. What do I mean by that? You know, I'm an American Express Platinum card holder, and early in the days of outsourcing their service operations, there were people whose language skills weren't good enough, and the people whose training was not good enough, and they were not built on relationship building, as opposed to getting a transaction done as quickly and as cheaply and as fast as they possibly could. So if you can slide down to that last context slide. Thank you. That is a picture from our office in Atlanta, Georgia, and it gives us a view on the Atlanta world and my role as chairman, since I've passed off the CEO role to Bill Fagan, our amazing young chief executive officer, is really to look at the landscape, look at the horizon, and see the trends in sports that are coming worldwide. And post-COVID, what we see, the single biggest trend is increased membership rather than season ticket. In other words, anything we can do to make the individual feel that they are a member of that sports property and they have that close relationship is really important. Second thing we're seeing is people don't want to buy full season plans. They want smaller plans, mini season ticket plans. They want snippets or bites. They literally want bites because people want food and beverage packages tied in there very, very closely. And so we see all of those things happening, and we need to target different groups. About 8 or 9 years ago, we won one of the European Sports Marketing Awards for Stadium Business, and we won it for our work in cricket with Lancashire County Cricket Club and Emirates Old Trafford Cricket Ground. And what we did was we identified 6 major segments of their fan base, and we created seating sections that reflected the level of interest in cricket for those fan bases. So the obvious ones were the cricket aficionados, and this is the old fuddy-duddies that really only won five-day test cricket, aren't that wild about Big Bash and what they called years ago instant cricket. You know, 1 day, 20 over, 40 over. I wouldn't call instant cricket, but obviously much more bite-sized. So we had the cricket aficionados, we had families that wanted something very, very different. We created the segments for the people when it was test matches. We created an international segment. So there would be a complete couple of seating sections that if it was Pakistan or if it was India or if it was the West Indies, the food vendors, the beer, the liquor, all of the elements of the experience in that section, including music in outside the seating venue. So in the back of the stadium outside, you know, whether it be steel drum bands or whatever, it would be a totally immersive Caribbean type experience for the Caribbean fan base if England or Lancashire were playing, you know, the West Indies team. Very, very different kind of segment. And then we had, you know, the whole young professional segment with the beer snakes. If you don't know what that is, they get the plastic cups when they buy their beer and they put them one on top of each other to show how much beer they've been drinking. And that was totally outdoor party, young professional market segment. So by segmenting each of those elements of the venue, we won the World Cup gold package for Lancashire County Cricket Club in that they got the semi-final and they also got the Ashes series against the Australians. So that's the level of strategy, tactical execution, detail orientation, highly targeted, highly personalized. The email is not coming to dear valued customer, it's coming to Bernie Mullen. And the last story that kind of wraps it up so that we're right on time and we've got 35 minutes for Q&A. So please start thinking about Q&A and the folks at the Geo Institute will get it into the chat. The reason I got the job as Senior VP of Team Marketing and Business Operations, essentially the CMO and the head of the best practices, building the best practices unit with people like Dr. Bill, is because of Dr. Bill. He got me to speak at the annual marketing meeting attended by team presidents and team chief revenue officers. Today, we'd call them, in those days, chief marketing officers. And I held up a letter which was sent to me, and it said, "Dear valued season ticket holder." And it was from the Denver Nuggets NBA team. And it was from the Colorado Avalanche NHL team, same owners, same management team. And I held up the envelope that it came in, and I said, "Look, it's got my name on the envelope, put that down." I held up the invoice for my season tickets. I said, "Look, it's got my name on the invoice. All right, put that down." Held up the letter and said, "Look at the letter. I'm a valued season ticket holder. I'm not Bernie Mullen. I'm not dear Bernie." That's lazy and it's ineffective and it sends a message, and that message is received loud and clear by the fans. And insincerity and lack of authenticity today is the single biggest cardinal sin in marketing that is really dumb marketing and not intelligent marketing. So I've given you a lot to think about in the broad areas. I'd like to throw it open to questions and for the chat. And again, thank you for the honor and privilege of doing this podcast. My pleasure.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mullen. That was fantastic. And of course, we open up the floor now for the Q&As. In the beginning, we'd like to really take up questions related to the topic of, the delivered to data by Dr. Mullen. And towards the end, we are open to take up questions regarding admissions. Please feel free to type in your questions and we'll take it up one by one. Thank you very much. Dr. Mullen, we have a question from Aryaman Puri. He has to ask this: to what extent can intelligent marketing help in increasing a fan base? A culture for sport is also something that is very important to garner viewership. Example, soccer in India struggles for viewership.
Yeah, thank you very much, Arun. It's a great question. It can massively build the database. It's interesting, and I'm going to tell you two contrasting responses to start with that. I'll give you an example. The University of Denver has a fantastic ice hockey team, incredible tradition. They've won more NCAA, which is the National Collegiate Athletic Association, the governing body, championships in ice hockey than any other university. When we were brought in there about 6 or 7 years ago now, the database was 250,000. The reality was, when we did our analysis, that only around 100,000 people had actually bought tickets in the last 5 years. So we immediately said, okay, well, our strategy is going to have to impact on the 100,000 that really are likely to buy and generate revenue for the university, not discounting people that might live out of the market. They don't live in Colorado, but they might give donations back. So sometimes when we go in, the actual database size shrinks because we're cleaning it. We're getting rid of dedupes. I mean, the deduplication of the databases we find is insane, really bad, which means they've been sending 2 emails, if it's a hard copy, if they're still doing mailers, direct mailers, they've been sending 2 direct mailers. So in some cases, it cleans it up. But in reality, if you look at the core of the database, which is who is likely to buy, the size of the database goes up massively because we are on the website, on social media. Anybody that's talking, for example, about the University of Denver athletics, it could be women's gymnastics, it could be men's and women's basketball, it could be men's and women's soccer, which are the most visible beyond hockey, most visible programs there. We're capturing that information from a wide diaspora of sources and putting it into the database. And then obviously we are working towards getting their mobile phone number so that we can do texting and we can actually make calls. And we're, as long as we obviously have opt-in and permission to do so, our prior transaction history with them. So most of the time we are increasing the size of the database, but the most important part is we are always increasing the size of the targeted database, the rich database, the people that are likely to be most responsive. So hopefully I've answered your question there. Second part is the culture of sport is something that is very important to garner viewership. One of the things that we did at the NBA, which had massive increase in the TV viewership, was build the database. So we worked with all of the vendors providing the merchandise. So whether it was Reebok or Nike, either doing the NBA jerseys or doing shoes, the sneakers, all of that, we worked with them to grow the database. We also did a lot of contests on air, enter to wins. And I'll give you a crazy example in this respect. We pitched the All Blacks, the New Zealand Rugby Union. And you think about one of the most iconic logos and merchandise branding in the world is that silver fern leaf on a black background. It's so clean and so great, and it just says All Blacks underneath it. And we said to them, we were in Wellington several years ago, we said, how many people do you have in your database? 20,000. Well, the population of New Zealand is about 4 million. And the number of rugby fans in New Zealand is 3.99 million. It's the kid who's just born is not an All Black fan until they can actually look at the TV screen and get it. And we said, you got 20,000 people in your database? That's it? Yes. You kidding me? I said, you want that to go to 1 million in a week? They go, what are you talking about? So we'll do a contest. Next test match you've got, we'll do a contest. Enter to win free tickets to, the South African series, and we'll get, Air New Zealand to give tickets in it, and then a hotel company to do it. We'll do it in a minute. So yeah, the size of the database is really important. These activities in intelligent marketing definitely grow it. And you can then do tune-in messaging like we did at the NBA, which was video, day of the game. Hey, tonight it's, the Lakers going up against the Warriors. It's LeBron against Steph Curry. Don't miss it. Here's what happened the last game, particularly if there's a little bit of scuffle or some tension or them facing off or them getting ticked off at each other, or there's some really exciting play. That video approach to your entire database to tune in, particularly games of broad-based national interest, definitely works. Next question. What do you think of intelligent impact on Middle East sports field? I think it's exactly the same thing. I mean, I think what you see, look at Saudi Arabia's desire to host the World Cup after what happened in Qatar. And I don't know if this question that is being asked is Amal, whether it's other sports. If it is, just please put in the chat that you're talking about other sports, maybe some of the equestrian events that might be Middle East specific. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. I mean, you have to have cultural assimilation to understand, if you're in a country where women are not going to be allowed to attend in venue, obviously that has to be in there. The cultural habits and acceptability of making those outbound messages has to be factored in. But as long as you've got opt-in, as long as you've got any kind of relationship, and as long as you've got a high probability that that person is interested in your sports property, go for it. If you just pure out spamming, no, because it doesn't work. It's ineffective. And in fact, it turns more people off than turns them on. Next question, a great question. How can intelligent marketing be used to build long-lasting brand integration strongly with the culture? For example, Nike. In America, we like to think of ourselves as the leaders in sport marketing. And I think in some areas we are. And I think in some areas, we may not be as intelligent as we could be. The obvious brand integration is a product I talked about before, the family plan, the modern family plan. I don't know if the modern family TV show is exposed in India or gets on the networks in India or in the Middle East, across the Middle East, to the extent that it did do when it was running in America. But the idea of the modern family was, an older man with a younger wife, and then younger children and a second marriage. There was two gay guys, with raising a child. And then there was the traditional nuclear mom, dad, and two kid families. So in recognition of the modern family in America, 25% of American families are single parent families these days. 25% single parent. Okay. So what's the product marketing to them, and how does it tie into a brand? Well, the McDonald's family plan. You buy tickets, and if McDonald's does not have a store, a restaurant inside the sports venue, then you're giving coupons that drives people to the nearest McDonald's. Maybe there's one near the parking lot or on the way of the main arterial routes people taking to the stadium, or if they're going mass transit, it exists. So you brand it the McDonald's family plan. We branded with the Denver Grizzlies minor league hockey team in our first season, 1994, 1995. We branded with Pizza Hut the plan. Now, Pizza Hut was actually inside It was called McNichols Arena. Today it's the Ball Arena. It used to be the Pepsi Arena. But in McNichols Arena, Pizza Hut actually had a store in there. We were able to tell them in advance how many people had bought the package. And given that we're a minor league team, the only way we could advertise, and Pizza Hut worked with us, is we put a flyer, just a simple printed flyer, went to Kinko's, printed off thousands of these suckers. And the Denver Metro Pizza Huts, when they delivered a pizza, it had our flyer on the outside of it. So it was pretty spamming back in those days, back in 1994, but it worked phenomenally. And that what happened was we would get about 1,500 to 2,000 per game. And the International Hockey League, the league we were playing in, we had 41 home games. So we got 80,000 of these tickets in the family plan was sold at about an average price back then of probably about $15, of which the ticket was $8, and the pizza and the soft drink cost us about $7. So worked extremely well, and we branded it on everything we did in stadium, in venue, as well as on these flyers on the pizza boxes as the Pizza Hut family program. Back to the McDonald's family program, the research showed that you wanted to start the family ticket program, not as most properties do, 4 tickets, 4 meals, 4 drinks, but as 2 meals, 2 tickets, 2 drinks. Because then a single parent mom can bring a child, a couple can come as a couple, and you could add a 3rd, 4th, 5th, 7th, whatever you wanted. So a mom says, this game I'm going to go to just with my son or daughter, who's a big fan for the cricket team. Boom, we go. And it's the McDonald's family plan, and it's 2 tickets, 2 meals, 2 drinks. The next time her friend, her daughter or her son wants to bring a friend, I want to buy 3, they can buy 3. The next time they want to come with a girlfriend who's also a single parent, so she comes, a friend comes, and they each bring their own children, 4. That's modern strategy, and that's elevating the brand into that. And really what you want to do more than anything else is you want to have long tail, high equity programs in the community. So, if I was working in India, one of the things I would do is find out the right kind of companies that wanted to tie into, particularly, when there are cricket matches and there are day parts that on field, I'd want to bring in a lot of underprivileged kids with chaperones or with their parents to experience the cricket courtesy of one of these companies, and I would probably tie food in and drink into it as well, which means it's a big ask, because you're obviously spending a lot of money to feed someone with a hot dog, with a hamburger, with a whatever that core food item is that you're feeding. You're talking to one of the biggest Indian food fans in the world, so I don't know if it's tikka masala or my favorite vindaloo, but whatever it may be, whatever that item is that is going to work, that would be a kid's item and as a parent's item, that I think is the single biggest way to get the brand involved. How can it be used to build long-lasting brands? I mean, that's really it. Examples in Pittsburgh with the Pirates baseball, we did a promotion with Pizza Hut because they're very innovative, and we call it the Pizza Pop-Up, the Pirates Pizza Hut Pop-Up. And what it is you fill out an enter to win at any Pizza Hut store in Western Pennsylvania or Eastern Ohio, which was the Pittsburgh Pirates baseball team's territory. And you fill that application blank out, or you dropped in your business card. If your name was drawn on a Sunday match, we bring you out by second base. And in baseball, they have something which they probably use in cricket as well. It's a mortar gun. You put the baseball in it and fires it high up in the air. And the catcher, who's the wicket keeper, would have to pull off his mask and look up in the air, find the ball, and make the catch. So that's what it's used for. But we did it with a fan. So the fan came out with a glove, and there would be 3 pop-ups. If they caught one, everybody with their ticket back would get a free 16-ounce soda. If they caught two, everybody with the ticket back got a free jug of soda, pitcher of soda. And if they caught all three, everybody got a free personal pan pizza, which is about a 9-inch pizza. So really great value. Pizza Hut had to stop allowing the promotion to be redeemed on the Sunday after the game because the Pizza Hut franchises, the stores that were on the major highways coming out of Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh, got so overwhelmed they couldn't handle the business. So they had to say, no, it starts Monday through Friday, because the redemption of it was just incredible. Absolutely amazing. So, and the branding on that was extremely long tail. So you want equity, you want long term, you want real programs. What am I saying there? I would, if any of the cricket teams in the IPL have day parts where they're not sold out, so even if the kids only came for the day and then say left if it went into the evening or whatever, or only came for the morning, only came for the afternoon, almost like a school field trip, I think a national sponsor could easily get behind something like that, and it would be, the value of it would be incredible. I think that's all the questions I see right now. So are there other questions from the Institute?
Dr. Mullen, there are a couple of more questions. I have a question from Lily Joseph. She's asking, what do you think about sports industry in India and how will it impact?
The sport industry in India?
Yes.
I think the sports industry in India is IPL, leave aside. I think it's at the early adopter stage, and I think there's all kinds of significant opportunity when you look at the population base of India and you think of so many sports, particularly soccer. I don't think that because cricket is so popular, soccer couldn't grow in India. I think it can and it will. I think if you look at India and the population there, particularly when I was an undergraduate university at Coventry University in England, I was the captain of the soccer team. One of my roommates was the captain of the rugby team. Another one of my roommates was the captain of the field hockey team. When you think about how strong field hockey is as a sport for men, at the Olympics, I think there's tremendous opportunities. I think it's just got to be done right. And I'm surprised there isn't the question of cost, because everything I've talked about is technology driven. That has a cost, and it's people driven, people driving the technology, and that has a cost. One of the things we were able to demonstrate with the MBA, with Teambo and our best practices unit, was that the return was immediate. So we were really able to get immediate return, very, very strong immediate return, Lily, in what we did, from the fact that the incremental revenue more than justified having people building databases, having intelligent marketing campaigns going out, having people doing inbound customer service and outbound phone sales as well. Sorry, I just slid the bar down now so I can see. Do you think esports industry in India will become as big as conventional sports? Lukesh, the answer is no, I don't think it will become as big, but I think it will become big. If you look at the culture, particularly career, we Aspire 6 or 7 years ago did a major investment into the esports business. We decided we didn't want to own the properties ourselves. We were hired by Riot. Riot Games runs League of Legends, which at the time was the biggest individual esports game in the world, about 120 million players at that time. And we built a strategy for them to go into universities, and freshman men was one of their biggest targets to get them playing. But I do think esports will continue to grow because it certainly feels a niche. I think the single biggest thing missing in esports, and this is what we did. We did not have the funding to do it, and I kind of throw it out openly to companies that do have the funding, and we do have some investors that are looking into possibly funding. Is, I think more than anything else, what esports needs is a community. And we created the concept, we didn't launch it, of ethos. And if you look under the English language dictionary of ethos, ETHOS, ethos is the spirit of a community that aspires. So when you think of the connection back to our company name, Aspire, it was very relevant. But working kids go to learn about esports. Working kids go to learn how to get better and have coaching. Working kids go to find a team, and then working teams go to find a compatible skill level of leagues, because the Smurfs, the really skilled esports players in a particular discipline or a particular genre can go there and absolutely kill people learning that particular sport. And they do that just for practice and fun and kicks and giggles, which I don't think is very funny. But it's a big problem with the esports industry. But I think it's got a big future and definitely a growth opportunity to look at. I'm going to try Airman Puri's question. PGA was the undisputed golf league worldwide. Yeah. With Live coming in, how does Live Golf create and communicate to their database through intelligent marketing? I'm going to say to you, stay tuned, because we're about to sign a contract to do it with Live Golf for their American events. So that is a launch thing. Obviously, we're not going to have access to the PGA events that have gone on. To what extent a particular venue, so a particular golf club that's hosting a Live event has maybe hosted a PGA event in the past, there would be those email lists. But basically, you would build that database by going to all of the golf databases and getting access to the golf databases, whether that's manufacturers that are willing to do that. Generally, they won't share the database, but they might give you use of golf associations, etc. But that's not easy. The strategy is going to be very similar to what we did with the Open. With the Open, it was more about capturing people that came to the event for future years. For example, the Open golf tournament in Britain had never had a booth at the Open. All 4 days of the Open, they had no booths saying, want to come next year at St. Andrews, register here, or buy now. So we set up strategies where next year's prices were set up so you could buy them now and be assured, particularly, last year, the 150th anniversary of the first Open, which was, of course, at St. Andrews. So last year was the 150th event anniversary, the largest crowd ever. But our work with the Open, like I said, was targeted mainly on premium hospitality, but it went across all areas. And that work produced the highest revenue and the highest attendance ever at every Open since we did the work, starting with Royal Birkdale, near my home where I grew up in Northwest England, just north of Liverpool. Have we ever worked on a question project worldwide or events? No, we have not, Amal, but we've worked on horse racing, and we did a lot of work with horse racing in Australia, starting with breeders and then obviously track operators. And we also did some work on with the betting operators, totalizator betting operators on horse racing. So I don't know if you were talking about with a question of horse racing events, or whether it was more Olympic dressage or some of the other events, but the answer is it doesn't matter which one. There's 3 or 4 different entertainment genres we've worked in besides the 18 sports. Didn't matter what sports. The basic concept that we were using, which is really can be summarized as 3 things: database, intelligent marketing, intelligent communication, targeted, specific, personalized right offer, right place, right target, right platform, right time. That, number two, is the single biggest part of it. And then number three, outbound calling to follow up on those who open, because the conversion rate is so low just on SMS and on email. Even when you have a highly targeted, very favorable database, the conversion rate on those groups is relatively low. Next question is a great question. Sport management, undergrads, respect to their career path. I got trained in this when I was at UMass, and I was at UMass for 10 years from almost 10 years, from 77 to 86. And one of the things they did was train us for placing interns. And the training was ask the interns. So I'm asking everybody on this podcast right now, certainly those of you younger and early in your career, write down the three things you love to do the most when you're in high school. What are the three things you love to do the most? Play soccer, be with my friends, blah, blah, blah. And try and put together a career out of it. And I'm going to give you a very specific example. My best friend in high school was great at art, always drawing, always designing. He had a great sense of humor, was great with jokes, and he loved music. And as he left high school, he was not a very good student. His English was okay, but math not so good. And so he didn't do that great in his grades in high school. But he left and became a teacher, an art teacher, and a phys ed teacher. And he did music. So he would play the clubs and go all over England, playing the clubs on a weekend. He married a stunning woman, amazing, amazing woman who was the lead singer in a group called Champagne. I don't know if they have India's Got Talent. I presume they do, but with Simon Cowell. But it was their group Champagne went on the version of Britain's Got Talent at that time. It wasn't called Britain's Got Talent. It was called, I'll think of it in a minute. Anyway, they won week after week after week after week. So it was different in those days. Fans voted and Champagne won. Champagne represented England or Britain in the Eurovision Song Contest. Phenomenally brilliant. Sadly, Jan worked, this is my friend's wife, worked at the BBC. She fell in love with the choreographer of the BBC. She left my good friend, and it devastated me. And one weekend I went back to Britain right after I'd gone through this training at UMass. And after a couple of bottles of wine, Joe, what are the three things you love to do the most? Art, drawing, okay, creative, right? Music, you love music. And number three, you love humor and clever double entendres and everything else. Find a career that combines those three things. He says to me, what is it? I said, I have no bloody idea, but go talk to people, go to the universities, talk to people and get some ideas. So what do you think he did? He went to a university and they said, you should go into advertising, particularly in England, because there's so much double entendre, clever humor, thought behind it there, more so than America, where we're a little bit more slapstick in your face with our advertising. And that's what he did. Within 10 years, he was head of creative Saatchi & Saatchi in Britain. And then he went on to work with Ogilvy and Mather, including in the United States, in direct marketing. Today, he's based in Singapore. And what does he do? He does online copywriting, for obviously for websites and also for intelligent marketing collateral. So go back and find out, Claudia, Claudius, go back and think of the three things you used to do in high school or if you're still in high school, what you love to do right now, and combine them in a career. Combine that passion for the sports. I think most people know the expression of do what you love and you'll love what you do. Since I've got into sports, I've done what I love. And I often say, I've never worked a day in my life because I don't consider it work. Now, I have worked incredibly long days when Bill Dr. Bill Sutton and I worked for David Stern, the commissioner of the NBA, and Adam Silver, the current commissioner of the NBA, was one of our colleagues. I was in my office by 8:25 a.m. in the morning, and I got the 8:20 p.m. train at home at night, walked out of my office around 8 o'clock. And when I've run the teams that I've run, like the Hawks and Thrashers, when I built the Aspire group, I've worked plenty of 10, 12-hour days, occasional 14-hour days. So it's not about not working hard, but it is about not feeling like you're working hard. And let me get to that, some more questions down there, sorry. Do you think esports will take over the, I think that's meant to be traditional sports? No. My story on that is the young man who ran all of our strategy, analytics, and marketing, we call it Sam, our VP of Sam. He was a big e-gamer. Obviously had a couple of games with some first-person shooters, but League of Legends, Riot was his League of Legends was the biggest choice. He came to me and he goes, Bernie, I want us as the Aspire Group to invest in the future of sports. And I smiled and I said, Michael, and funnily enough, Michael was one of Dr. Sutton's students at UCF who we stole away. I said, Michael, I think it is a part of the future of sport. I don't think it is the future of sport. So if your question is about traditional sport, I think it will grow bigger and bigger. I think it will fractionalize to the different publishing games, the different genre of games, but I don't think even collectively it will be bigger than traditional sport. Nothing's going to be bigger than cricket in India, in my opinion, for example. But it's going to be interesting to see. And then what should you look for when interviewing a sales consultant? It's very simple. For years with the Pirates, my head of recruiting for the sales operation used to write very specific instructions in the ad for the position. And if you didn't follow the instructions, he wouldn't hire you because he wanted people to follow the instructions. What do we look for in sales consultants? I can tell you that in the history of Aspire, we have hired and started over 1,500 people in this business, which I'm very proud of. We've got over 80 that have been promoted, having started, at the entry level, have been promoted to a management position within our company. Another 20 or 30 have left and taken management positions with other companies. And, what is the most important skill in selling? The most important skill in selling is listening to understand. My dad sold life insurance when he was very successful as a life insurance executive. I was about 11 years old and he was talking to a neighbor. And I said, my dad's got the gift of the gab. I thought my dad was going to kill me on the spot. It was beyond precocious. It was obnoxious, what I said. And he said to me, no, son, I listen. Number one, do you have the ability to listen? Do you have the ability to ask the right questions? So it goes like this. Who do you typically come with to the games? I come with my kids. That's fantastic. Okay. Many of our competitors stop there. We don't. Really? How many kids do you have? Oh, that's great. Boys and girls. What ages? What do they love to do? What do they like most about that sports event? So David Stern used to always say the third level question is the one that really gets you the information. First level question was, that's great. How many kids do you have? What ages? What sexes? Right? What do they love to do? Third level question. It's a great one for parents at the dinner table. How was your day at high school today, Julie, my eldest? Fine. What was fine about it? Then you start to get unloaded, usually on what was not fine. But you said your day was fine, honey, and all you've told me is things that didn't go so well. Okay, so do you ask the third level questions and have a dialogue and build a relationship? This is not just put some stuff on a slide and say fan relationship management center. Are you really building a relationship where that person sees you as a trusted source for athletic tickets at the University of Kansas or Maryland or Purdue, or for the Monterey Bay Football Club, do they really see you as a trusted resource and a friend that will give them, give them the truth and give them access to the best tickets, the best prices, and really has their best interest in heart. And I think that is the sales, and I know we're out of time, so I'll wrap up. We have something we call Raise Your Game, which is our management development or executive development program. It's designed to train you on sales. It's designed to train you on being a sales manager. It's designed to train you on being a business executive. And the first slide, and it used to be 24 modules, we've cut it down, it's 20 something right now. But the first slide is called the Sports Business Money Tree. And the Sports Business Money Tree is a tree. And the trunk of the tree is ticket sales. Then it's sponsorships and food and beverage concessions and merchandising and, community programs and other revenue sources, obviously broadcasting being the biggest one. But the trunk of the tree is ticket sales and butts in seats. And when you look at the brand of a sports product, it's part how big the crowd is. If it's sold out, that's huge. It's part, do they have the top sponsors? Or in America, we'd always say, do they have Chico bail bonds? Or if they're a hockey team, do they have a dashboard advertisement that has the street address, the phone number, the URL on it, that not even a player on the ice could read, never mind the fan of the back row of the arena can read? Are they on TV? Are they on the better sports channel at the right times? Blah, 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 blah. That's the essence of defining the strength of that brand, is the nexus of how well sold out it is, what quality sponsors they have, what broadcast rights partners they have, and then finally, what the community thinks about them. And public relations is all about what the community thinks about you in their head. Community relations is all about what the community thinks about you in their heart. And so learning all of that, sales is the trunk of the tree and feeds into everything else. If you understand sales, what it takes to build a crowd, you've got the number one skill. And it's essential for you to become a sports marketer to understand how you sell, because sports marketing is setting it up for sales. So hopefully I've given a lot of different ideas for you to follow up on and some good information and approach. But it's been my honor and my privilege. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mullen. I mean, lots of take-home, ideas and food for thought. For me, the really interesting perspective that you gave was about esports, because a lot of people now, of course, we are talking a lot about sport or in esports, but to have this particular perspective is really, really interesting. And we are looking forward to getting more into details about such kind of topics and domains of discussion when the program begins. And we just cannot imagine what are the possibilities like. Thank you to the participants for being with us. And we really invite you to visit our website and see the different courses that we're offering. And we're happy to answer all your questions. Write to us, call us. We have a helpline number with counselors who are ready to talk to you. So until the next masterclass, it's goodbye from us. And thank you, Dr. Mullen.
No, thank you. Thanks to all my friends at the Institute. What you're doing is super. And I know it's just going to grow and grow and grow. And the Indian market is just so undeveloped. The opportunity. I wish I was 23 coming out of school myself with all the exciting opportunities and, happy. Like I said, I'm the biggest Indian food fan in the world. So I would love to be young again and involved in seeing the boom that you're going to experience in the sports industry in India. It's going to be fantastic.
We look forward to hosting you in India very soon. Thank you.
I look forward to being there. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye now.